I'd like to invite our panelists to the stage. We're going to have an amazing panel discussion about just that topic, human connections behind businesses. I'd like to invite Catherine Dahl of Beanworks. She's the CEO of Beanworks. Please. I'd like to invite Angel Pui, serial entrepreneur and co-founder of Discover Therapy. I'd like to invite George Fleming, CEO and founder of Conversion Relations. And I'd like to invite my friend Farhan, co-founder, editor-chief of DailyHive. May I ask everyone to introduce themselves for the audience? And I'll let you guys do that. I think I wouldn't do justice. Should we start with Farhan?
Sure. My name is Farhan Mohamed. I am a born and raised Vancouverite. My parents immigrated over from East Africa back in the 1970s. I live downtown, I was born downtown, and I hope to never leave downtown, but that's probably never going to happen. I have a passion for community, and I've been this way ever since I was a little kid, and that's led me to where I am in life today. I am currently the editor-in-chief and a partner of DailyHive. I run all of our content, and so everything you see up on the site, that's coming from, majority of it from my team. I love community, and I love meeting new people, and that's the reason I'm here today.
My name is George Fleming. I moved to Vancouver from Toronto about 30 years ago. Don't hold that against me. And back then I was a stockbroker. Don't hold that against me either. I spent 10 years in the brokerage business and then left to start building internet companies. And ever since then I've been basically a serial entrepreneur, developing new companies, taking some of them public, raising capital for all of them, building teams, succeeding and failing and continuing to build new companies. And there's nothing like the shiver down your spine of starting a new company. And as Reza said, knowing that you're all on your own and it's up to you. That's the most exciting thing you can ever do.
Hi, my name's Angel. I've been a serial entrepreneur since I was grade 7. My first project was actually when I was playing video game Street Fighters, and I would get blisters on my thumb trying to do the special combo, and then my dad say, no more playing, you got some blisters. And I thought, all right, well, let's solve that problem. So and he's an engineer, so I did a programmable joystick so I can do the macro script onto the joystick, and when I pressed the button, it would just run the special combo. And I was like, problem solved, Dad, no more blister, I could play this all day. And since then, he's taken that hardware, the joystick line, and sold it to Logitech and Alienware. And I started from gaming, and then since then, I've been running tech startups. I have several of those as well. And the first one was Weddingful. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. Two-sided marketplace connecting brides with vendors, kind of an Airbnb for weddings. And then I joined my husband's Discover Therapies 3 years ago when we had a baby, and I didn't know what to do with myself, thinking I would take a break, but then I saw him working on a startup, and I said, move aside, let me do this with you. So that was connecting patients with clinical trials, and we sold that late last year, and now I'm looking for my next project.
Wow, that's a lot to follow. I met her earlier. I was like, whoa, how come I've never heard of you before? This is amazing. My name's Catherine Dahl.
Playing video games all day.
We're just in slightly different sectors. I'm an accountant turned tech CEO, so I'm a CPA by trade, and I happened to stumble into tech back in 2009. And so I guess serial entrepreneur from the perspective of I was working for myself, my own company, and then I joined a startup when startups were kind of not really a thing, but they were becoming a thing. And that startup didn't had a failure, but then we kind of popped into a new version of the same thing called Beanworks. Some of my crew's with me here, including my co-founder Tracy, sitting over there. We've been at this for since 2012. And what we do is we automate payables. It's kind of a boring topic unless you're an accountant, and it's a very exciting topic. We get rid of paper, just like you're doing, Reza. I love what you're doing. I've thought about this business because I network a ton, and in order to get this company going, I didn't do 100 in 100 days. But I was thinking about, geez, I never kept track of them. But I'm sure I did 100 in the first year, just because I felt the same way that I needed to start a business and get it going and figure out how to raise money. And I had no idea how to be a tech CEO, so I went to Hyperdrive in Ontario, got into Accelerator, and that was network. That was like 90 days of constant networking. And I mean, it's so funny that you happened to mention the one person in your talk this morning who I haven't seen in a while, Mauricio, is my neighbor from 2003. Wow. I was going to say, this is great to come to this event just to catch up with my old neighbor, and you mentioned him on the stage.
Small world.
I'm like, it is a small world. It's a small, big world. But yeah, so I'm very impressed when you came up to me at the panel and said, hey, I'm doing this crazy thing, 100 thing in 100 days. I was like, okay, but I'm getting rid of business cards. I said, that's a good idea. So I want to be part of that. So I'm really, really honored that you invited me to participate. And I'm just blown away by the members of the panel who I've never met until today. So it's pretty cool.
I'm a little speechless. Like, I don't know how I got all four of you here. I was stressing out a month ago. My friend over there, Taylor, knows. I was stressing out whether I'm going to get anybody to come to speak at my panel, and I'm just speechless. People can get live. We have a live QA. If you go to Slido and enter that code, you can participate in this engaging conversation and have questions coming up. With upvotes, I'm going to see it, and I'm going to ask our panelists. Let's get to it. Everybody here are a success story. I've been following you guys here and there. Definitely Farhan. I got to know Catherine very recently, and George as well. We had a coffee, and I really enjoyed everything we talked about. Same with Angel. I'm fascinated by you guys' story, but I really want to know when you guys started, when you guys had that perhaps lonely position or at that lonely start. What was it like? Can you take us back to that time? How did you go through it? Who did you have as a support in your life back then? Anybody wants to?
I'll go first because I have a weird start. It was lonely becoming the CEO eventually, but we started with 6 co-founders. And then we worked remote, which I'm a people person like you, and I'm not a good work at home person because I just want to clean the house all day long. So it's like, oh, I should be on the computer, but that's dirty. So I'm not a good work from home person, and I totally feel like I need to be around people. So that first year was quite lonely because it was a digital version. Everybody was on Skype in that day versus Zoom now. But so yeah, it was lonely that first year. So networking was important, getting together with other people and connecting. But we had to bootstrap the company, so we had no choice. We had customers, we had a platform, and we were rebuilding a new platform. And then we had to do things like we were hiring another co-founder and had to interview him at Starbucks. And then we had to fire a co-founder and had to do that at Starbucks. So I was like, it was a weird, I came from I was at the CBC as their finance manager. I went from that to working at home. So it was very strange. And then as I evolved in my role as CEO, my co-founders, we all had our jobs to do. My other co-founder is Reza, which is also very confusing. You're the only other Reza in my life now. And he was he had his job. He had to architect the system and build it. And another co-founder, Corey, he lives on the island now, but he did the front end. And we each had our kind of roles. And my role was to just keep the cash flowing. And don't share any of the burden of problems of that cash with the rest of the team. So that's the part for me that was probably the loneliest. It took probably 3 years before I started sharing some of the really bad pitfalls of getting that company restarted and the hassles I had with the investors and the previous company. And it was very, very difficult, and I just thought it's my job to wear that, and it's their job to just keep customers happy, keep things afloat, build a new version, move everybody over. Everybody had their own cross to bear, and mine was that, and yeah, it was. I found that really tough. So you got to have dedicated co-founders, which I do have still, and you got to have a spouse or a partner or someone who doesn't mind putting up with you being away a lot. Like I left my children. I think I shared this story when you were at the panel. I left my kids for 3 months, and I flew back and forth, and that's when I was living across from Mauricio, actually. And our kids grew up together on the cul-de-sac, but my daughter was 8, I think, and my son was 10-ish, and yeah, so that was tough. But yeah, I think it's all worth it because I'm super passionate about what we're doing and where we're going with it. And we're building a company in Vancouver. We have 63 people. We started with 6. So, and we're continuing to grow. We're going to be 80 by the end of the year. And I've got some great ideas tonight we're going to launch our new office in a few months. You're invited.
Thank you.
And we're going to steal that balloon idea. But yeah, so that's our start. That's our start and how that worked for us.
Yeah, because I've been doing these projects when I was young, and then throughout kind of high school, I guess I never felt the switch where, because you're just doing it, on the side of your high school desk, and then all of a sudden you're in university and you're building your next invention. And I remember calling myself the inventor, and that was my little business card that I would make for myself. And then one day in my early 20s with Weddingful, that's when I actually noticed there are other people like me. And it was like my first official networking where I remember saying this, there's a thing called startup, and we're called entrepreneurs. Like it was just thrown into this world that I was like, I just thought I was doing projects, in my own bedroom like you. And I'm, contacting people outside. So I never truly felt the loneliness until later, until when I was running Weddingful and things go up and down like a startup would, and you're, running out of cash and you're needing cash and you lost your first staff and you're like, I need a staff. And that's when I felt like I need someone to talk to and learn how to do this thing. Yeah. And that's when I went out to networking and go, please help me. There's others of you. Thank you.
I love the business card thing. And the funny thing is I have a picture of myself drawing my business card when I was a kid. I wasn't sure whether to put it up or not. Now that you mention it, I'm like, damn it, should have had that up there. Thanks for sharing.
So the definition of entrepreneur is to be unemployable. That's really true. Most entrepreneurs can't hold a job very long. And I became unemployable at about the age of 6, where I had my first paper route and then had another one and another one. And so I spent my whole life having paper routes and driveway sealing businesses and painting companies. And I was an entrepreneur from the moment I started to walk. So I don't even have a moment when I decided I was going to do it. That just was always me. The one thing that I have learned over the years, though, is that there's one rule that I think is critical to starting a business and growing it, and that is momentum is everything. You start off as a person building a business on your own with an idea, and nobody believes you, nobody understands it, and they're all trying to tell you shouldn't be doing it or you should go get a job. So you have a long road to run to actually build enough momentum. As you learn doing 60 events before anybody paid attention,
Yes.
you really have to believe in yourself and what you're doing. Because if you do, that's contagious and other people start to believe in what you're doing and paying attention to you. And that the next step is that you start to drive some momentum because people start to pay attention. And momentum as an entrepreneur, particularly doing startups, is the key to raising capital, attracting teams, attracting clients, and building an exit. But it all starts off with, you have to decide that you don't want to have a job or no one will hire you.
I've been really fortunate growing up that my dad has been a serial entrepreneur ever since I was young. He's always been my closest confidant in a way that I know he's been through something. He's played pretty much every single industry and done pretty much everything. He's made a lot of money and lost a lot of money and probably done that like 5 or 6 times over. So I've seen that growing up. And so he's always taught me that, you know, whatever you do, you have to do it yourself. And it's the same things that everyone's saying here. There was one moment, it might have been 6 or 7 years ago, that really stuck true to that. It was one Christmas holiday, and there were, I think, maybe 3 of us that were working on the company really at the time, and one of them was on holiday, one of them was pretty much away, and so like I had to do pretty much everything for a couple days. And I still remember being on my bed at my mom's house and just sitting there at like 2 a.m. thinking, how am I going to do this? I started crying and I just broke down. And for like a solid half hour, I just sat there and I didn't know what I was going to do. And at that moment, I realized that if I don't do this, this isn't going to happen. And so got my stuff together and I said, okay, this is it. I can do this. But it was also the realization that you can't do everything all at once. You can't do everything in a day, and you have to hit pause at some time and pick it back up tomorrow. So there's always been that thing in the back of my mind that, and it's one of the mottos that I run by, which is that if you want something, you have to go get it. You have to get it yourself. And nothing is going to get served up to you on a platter. I remind all of my staff that every day, that if you want something, it's there for you. You have to build it yourself. You have to have that bar really high. And so throughout my life, I've set that bar so high, probably too high at some points, but it's all on me. And if I want it, I'm going to go get it. And I am the only person that is in charge of that. I can't depend on anyone else in my life to make that happen.
It's funny when, thank you. It's funny when George was saying about momentum, I didn't realize I'm inspiring my team across the globe. They were watching LinkedIn and they were super excited about everything that was happening, and they were telling me, you go do your thing, we'll get the web application up and running. And I didn't know I had that effect, but momentum is everything. When you are on that roll, it's like a magnet. People come together. Entrepreneurs are doing a lot in terms of what they have to accomplish. But what's the role of community in that accomplishment? Like what is the role of other people in your accomplishment? What's your thought on that?
Should I?
I think sorry, go ahead.
I mean, we met at Tech Vancouver and we were kind of talking about this topic, but I think your success, it all comes down to people around you. You know, as much as you have to do things yourself, it's also, you know, the people you surround with. I truly believe that most of my success actually came from the people, you know, helping me. It you know, like my father who helped me as the engineer, to my first investor, to the co-founder that joined you, to people that bought your company. Like, it's all people. You know, as much as we're running tech startup and it's all technology, like you said, it's all people. It's the customer on the other side, it's the investor who bought into you, it's the co-founder who decided to join you. It's all about the community.
In my case, being the total non-tech person, not this amazing engineer person over here, I do want to share a funny story, because my segue for 1 second, because my parents were not entrepreneurs. My mom was a teacher and then a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was a naval officer. So there was no business acumen in my house at all. So you don't have to have come from an entrepreneurial background to become one. But now that my husband is one and I am one, my kids have that attitude. And my son is like, I'm going to go do engineering at school because I want to be an entrepreneur and I need to know how to invent something. And engineering is the best place to start. And I'm like, great, good. He goes, business school's useless, Mom. I need to do engineering, and then I'm going to invent something, and then I'm going to run my own business. Okay. But from the community side of things, because I was thinking about that, going community, and it's like tech community. If we didn't have some of the things, and I think there was a photo of you of another panel I was on at BC Tech, and I was like, oh, you made it 2 of them. That's awesome. But if BC Tech, which was BCTIA at the time, wasn't around and didn't have the Center for Growth, which was my first, I went to a networking event, listened to a panel of women, and one of them was a part of that as an EIR, and I was like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I have to figure out how to learn. And those networking events led me to them. That led us to Hyperdrive. That gave me the 101 lesson on being a tech CEO and how to raise money. And they gave us some money and connected us to all these things. And it was the momentum of that learning that while everyone was busy doing like you did in 100 days, we took a lot longer. But while everybody was building keeping our customers happy, and the rest of them were building the new product, and then all that was going on, I was running around in the community, which was quite different in 2012 than it is now. It's a much more vibrant community. And then having to go to Ontario to get into where Google was, and then they took us to New York, and then I got to go to the Valley. Like everything led to something else, and I was getting connected to and then we got bit by the bug. Our plan was to rebuild the platform, move the customers, and sell the company. And I thought we could do it in 13 months. 12 years later, no, it's 9 years later. We definitely have rebuilt the platform, moved the customers, and then we got bit by the bug and decided, no, we can actually build something that's long-lasting and a legacy in the marketplace. Let's go for it. And all of that really started with the community. And someone in my company said to me that after I slacked him one night and said, every time we sort of need something, usually a person, it just falls in my lap. And I go, wow, I got so lucky. And then he said, read The Alchemist, and then come back later and reread what you just wrote to me. I'd never read that book. And now we call it alchemistic moments, because it's just something, just like even this is an alchemistic moment. I've got to run into an old friend. And it's amazing how the community can do that for you. If you put yourself out there and you go to places and you go and network and you go to events, that's when it's that momentum of the power of the community kicks in. At least it did for us.
Yeah, I mean, community, like I said, has been everything for me. Community, the way I define it, is literally just the people who are in my life. And I've been both fortunate, but also, really, I'm going to say something here stupid, but I've been really smart in the way that I've lived my life, I think. I'm going to look back at that and say that was probably something stupid to say. But I've been really thoughtful in the way I've been doing it. I don't, if I meet someone that I think is going to add value to my life, I want to see them again, and I want to see them again. And I've been able to create that around me. And that, to me, those are the people who are going to help you get better. And what's interesting is that I feel like, the more I do this, the more I realize that those are the ones I want surrounding me, that are going to push me to be better. Those are people like your significant other that's going to be there, that's with you no matter what happens. Those are the people who will show up to an event when you say, hey, what do you guys want to do tomorrow? Or you guys want to come to an event? They show up to be there. And those are the types of people that will always be around you. So if you think about your life and you think about, who are those people around you, whether it's the 5, 10, 15, 20 people, whoever that is, if you can count those people on one hand, two hand, add your feet into that, those are the ones that are really going to make the impact. So when you ask, what does that mean and how has that been for you? That's everything. I wouldn't be here without those people. There are some people that I see once every 3 months, once a year, once every 2 years. But it's the sheer idea that when you see them, you can pick that back up and they can help you get better. When you're going through tough times or when you're going through success, they're there for you no matter what, and they're able to help you, push you in the right direction.
One of the things I take the most pride in is when I'm dealing with somebody that I've known for 20 or 30 years, and that I have a network of people that I continue to work with and call on and collaborate with that I've known forever and ever and ever. Which is amazing because, you make a lot of dumb mistakes over the years, you fail at things, you say dumb things, you get drunk with the wrong person or something. But still, long-term relationships last. And those are the rock that everyone's business gets built on. At the same time, we also need to continue networking because we take from it what we need at that point, whether it's encouragement, whether it's proof of concept, encouraging the fact that you've developed something that people understand, whether it's raising capital and networking with the right people to find the investors you need, or whether it's sourcing great team members to join your company. You still have to keep doing it, but you have to get smarter and smarter about it so you don't waste your time. I'm sure all of you have been to a lot of different networking events and come home with a whole bunch of cards. And if I take your card from you tonight, I'm sorry, I probably will forget your name or who you look like. So I learned that my memory is so terrible that I only want to be able to talk to the people. I want to remember the people that I'm looking to meet. And that's a really important thing because how many people have you met over the 100 days?
A little over 1,000.
And is it like a jumble of faces in your head?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I connected with a lot of them, and I remember it because of the number of the event. That's how my brain right now works. Like I met you at that event. But yes, it's overwhelming. You can't have a meaningful connection with 1,000 people at the same time. No. But
that's where LinkedIn comes in.
Yes. But on that note, I have a question. I'd like panelists to share your thoughts around what do you guys do to build that stronger relationships? And what do you guys do for other people to be able to build a stronger relationship with you? It's a two-way effort, I guess.
All right, you're not jumping in, I'll go first, then you guys can do much better after me. Think about it, yeah, it's better to go second, you're like, I think about that. That's an interesting question because as like all of us, as I'm sure CEOs of companies, you're busy. Like I have kids, I have a husband, they don't see me much. I have work to do all the time, and so for the building of relationships for me tend to be a much smaller subset of other CEOs actually, especially female CEOs who have run through this before, and I'm a part of Ace Tech, so I get to see them once a month, and then I try to make time for friends, but it's difficult. I'm not good at that part at all, I have to admit.
Yeah, so good question. I was actually thinking about this, how the strong relationship I built and how I create a stronger relationship with people. I would say I tend to, and this is kind of what we talked about at Tech Vancouver as well, but I tend to solve problems and I love solving problems. And so that's how I connect with people, and that's how we have these strategic calls, and people identify that with me. They somehow notice that's what I do, and so I would have coffee and lunch with people, and they would tell me this is my burning problem, and we have yet to solve it, and then for whatever reason I would think of an outside the box way, and they're like, man, I have never thought of that before, and I would not even be part of their industry. I'm like, I have no idea, but that's an idea for you. And they're like, this is one thing we should try. And so I would notice that, and I would seek that from other people. Like, here's my problem. How would you, give me a new perspective? So I've noticed that being a bit of a theme. And I also, like Farhan said, you kind of identify with people that have a similar mannerism as you, and I met him as well from an event last month, and once you kind of talk alike and you have similar circle, you start to notice there's a relationship building, and you may go to a networking event and see 100 people, but I'm sure you remember the 2 or 3 that you go, we are quite alike, wow, we think alike, wow, that was a really meaningful, that was a great idea, whatever it might be, and those kind of stood out. And then you kind of follow up with them, let's grab a coffee, let's continue this momentum, and kind of build upon it. So that's how I do it.
I learned a long time ago that asking questions is more important than telling people things. So if you spend a lot of time asking somebody about their business and what they're doing and their problems, what that does is it leads to ideas and developing a solution that they may not have seen. And probably like you, I'm pretty good at seeing what things connect together that other people may not. And so people come to me sometimes to ask my opinion, and that's led to a lot of relationships that have developed where I'm asking them about their opinion about my business as well. So I certainly do not have all the answers. In fact, I have too many more questions than answers about what I should be doing next. What I want to be able to do is surround myself with people who know more than I do, at least about certain things, or have very valid opinions about things, so that they can tell me what they think I should be doing. And so it becomes a symbiotic thing.
A lot of what I've realized is like, I don't really care about what people think about the business. I care about what's happening in their life, and that you need people who can help you from a pure life standpoint. And there will be business part of that, but one of the things that you realize, like Angel said, you start seeing that there's different connections on different things. So right now, we're having a kid soon, and so this is a new challenge in part of my life. Yes, it affects business, but this is a big life thing. And so you want some, not just help, but you want someone who's been there and understood that to help you through that. You go through something else where you have to fire someone. Well, I kind of need someone who's been through that. Or you lose a right-hand person, or you have to hire for that same role. And so it's looking at things like that, where how can you build that around your life, and realize that time is only so finite, and you don't have much of it. And once you think of your day-to-day, you have a clock on you of how much time you have. And so, seeing what you can add that's going to be valuable in there, and those people around you that are going to be able to do that.
Okay.
Also, like, start stalking people online as well. It's
Not talking about stalking in this video.
It's such an easy one that's going to bridge the gap between your day-to-day. There's a lot of people that I've got in my circle that, like I said, I don't see very often. I don't see in real life very often, but I see them online very often, and you build that connection. The thing that I've made the mistake of doing on LinkedIn is just accepting everyone. So now LinkedIn is just a total mess for me, and I have started unfollowing a lot of people and just muting them. And if I see another realtor trying to sell another home on LinkedIn, like, I'm going to just delete them from my life. But you can start to curate those things. And so for me, on, like, let's say Instagram, I've got two different accounts, a public account and a private account. And my private account is very private for a very small group of people, where I can connect with them on a different level. And the public account is on public level. And you've got all of these tools in front of you where you can connect with people on different levels, so that you can kill that small talk in between one another. It just makes things so much easier, so that when you do see each other every so often, every 3 months, 6 months, year, 2 years, or whatever that is, you cut that small talk, because I already know what you're doing. I already know Rez has gone to 100 things, and I don't need to ask him about each one, because he's already posted about it. So cool, hey, what's next? Let's talk about life, and what's the next thing, and how you're doing, and like, hey, what's your mental health like? Because that's probably taken a toll. I've been to two events tonight, and like, I'm exhausted. I don't know how you're doing it. So it's talking about it like that, where you cut the crap out, and you actually get to have real conversations.
I'm gonna share my side as well. I feel like authenticity speaks so loud. It's crazy. Like, from miles away, people can see that you're authentic or not, and it comes, like, authenticity comes with integrity, transparency, as well as a little bit of a vulnerability in there. Every single person sitting here, I didn't think they would come speak at my event, but all I did was I just walked up to them, hey Farhan, I would love you to come speak at my event. And I think a lot of people just don't do that. And that is the beginning of a relationship. I'm waiting for you guys to upvote. There are a lot of cool questions here, but I can't make my mind.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm going to flip it around to you and to everyone. Why is it so difficult for people to be genuine and be themselves? You've gone to 100 events. Have you noticed that you've got people who are real and who are not? Why is it so hard?
The why is a difficult question to answer because I've noticed it, but I don't know what's their why. I know what's my why. My why, I feel like a lot of things happen before I get to this point. It's not an overnight thing, and I'm very comfortable in my skin, so I'm authentic that way. I just share the whole thing. But a lot of people build this persona of themselves, and then they get stuck. They have to keep it up, and they can't take the mask off because they're worried they get judged. My thoughts on that. I'm fascinated by one thing, though. There are a few people in our lives that change our life drastically. Like, you meet a mentor, you meet your spouse, you meet your business partner. It influences your life forever, like for the rest of your life. How do you go about that? Because how much of it is in our control, and how much of it is just fate and it's outside of our control?
Well, you know me, I'm going to say it's the alchemistic moments. Yeah, I mean, when I think about my co-founders, we were all part of another company, and it was just one of those. We had the company closed down on one day and reopened 2 weeks later, and it was the people that stuck around on a layoff day that became the co-founders of the next company, and it was just we believed in what we were doing, and it was kind of accidental, and now they're like family, and they're stuck with me forever, even if they don't want to be stuck with me forever. Too bad, too late. Yeah, so I don't know. That's about it for me, I think.
Yeah.
You have a great story.
Oh gosh, I'm really resisting. Okay, I will give it up. The reason why we don't give it up is because video goes on social media and you hear about it the next day. But anyways, so one person that really made a huge difference in my life is my first investor, Boris Wertz, and I, for some reason, knew he was the investor for me. So it didn't matter that I went networking, it didn't matter that I went to 1,000 pitch event, I wanted him to be my investor. And he said no to me 3 times over many course of the months. And I was just, try again. In some ways, it bettered my business because he kept telling me the reason why he couldn't fund it. I was like, got it, I'll do that. And then I'll come back, and then I'll do it, and I'll come back. And so one day, I finally broke the wall, and he funded me. Anyways, then I, have a desk right next to him and stalked him from then on. And I will just cut that story right here. But
At least you got money from him, because I tried to, and that didn't work.
You got to do it 3 times.
Wasn't enough.
So in some ways, you can control it, because I could have taken the no and walked away, but I didn't. So in some ways, it felt like it was within my control. But there was also that fate, right? Somehow there was whatever seed it was in my brain that is it. That's my option. So I want to say half and half.
Okay, I'm going to tell a quick story here for a second. And it's going to kind of tell the past 10 years and how I got here. 2010, end of 2010, I get approached by a friend of mine who I've known he's a family friend, and he says, hey, I'm going to run in the federal election in 2011. I hear you're big in social media, and I need some youth to come and be a part of it. So I said, sure, why not? Let me help you out. I end up running his online campaign, running a kick-ass campaign, And I realized at the time I was going to school for arts at SFU, and I had no idea what I was doing. And at that point, I realized that, hey, like, I've got something here, and someone told me, why don't you do this for life? So I left things to fate, and I said, if we win, I'm gonna go to Ottawa, I'll have a job in his office, I'll go to school there. If we lose, I'm gonna switch schools, go get my business degree, and stay local. We ended up running a great campaign, but we lost. Stayed in Vancouver, went and got my business degree. The next year, one summer, I needed a job. My mom, who made a connection at a volunteer event years ago, knew someone who worked at the Vancouver Sun. He ended up helping me get a job at the Vancouver Sun that summer. Based on that job, I ended up working, and I realized that newspapers were dying and that this was a dying business, but there is a better way to do this. I had been following and been friends with Carm, who was one of the co-founders of Vancity Buzz then, and we went for lunch that same summer. I said, hey, I think there's a better way to do this. That fall, I ended up joining the team. Fast forward 7.5 years, I'm here today. So all of those things happened because of both fate, but also the different connections that you've made through along the way. And so long as you do things and you do them with a good heart, a clean heart, you literally have no agenda, you will end up getting there, and whatever's meant to happen is going to happen. So without all of those things and many more along the way, I would not be here today, and I would not be sitting on the stage, and I wouldn't have met you at an event based on a tech thing that I met another guy at, who met another guy, and all of that happened. So all of it happens for a reason. You just have to start doing it, but go in with the thinking that I have no idea what's going to happen here. I'm just doing this because I want to do this.
It's funny, I'm very fascinated by both George and Farhan at the end, because there's a bit of a contrast there. And I come from Middle Eastern family where faith is big. Faith is something that you've got to just believe in it, things will work out. And then you come to North America, I went to high school here, I thought to myself, well, somebody's got to do it. It's not going to just happen. Somebody's going to get things done. So I've always had this tug and pull between, is it faith or is it me doing it? And I so far I came to think that meeting those special people that really affect your life is like winning the lottery. But me being persistent and creating momentum is maximizing my chances to win that lottery. I'm just buying shit ton of tickets by going to all these events.
It's the tenacity, the opportunity, and putting yourself out there. Like, I got to meet today with one of my investors that was one of my Boris, like an early day investor, and it was just like, I met with him to update him about something, and that led to a conversation of, look, I've got bitten by the bug, and we have a bigger vision now. And so he's like, I am back to investing. Okay, I'll write you a check. I was like, what? Oh my gosh. Okay, and then that momentum picked up, and it went from a $400,000 check to $1.6 million a few months later. That led to to an investor, to a guy who introduced me to an angel group that became an advisor, became a director, became the board chair right now on my board, and who's phenomenally helping me in this next phase of my thing. And it's that whole momentum thing, and just follow a lead, follow another lead, follow another lead, and it gets you there. But if you don't start the process, nothing happens.
I'm very jealous. Like, I was very jealous when I heard Angel had that story, and she didn't tell the full story, but I was very jealous because I met Boris at my 12th event. He was doing this fireside chat, and I had a quick chat with him, but I didn't have the momentum yet. So it didn't go anywhere, but now I think I have enough momentum, hopefully through Angel. I would love to be reintroduced to Boris. He's a
I got your hint. Yes, I will make the intro.
Yes. We have a question from the audience. Audience, please go on Slido and upvote. There are a lot of questions. I need a few of them to come up so I can ask. Who is the first person you think to call when you're lost on what to do, and why them?
I'm not just saying this because she's here, but my wife. That's 99% is always the first call. It all depends. It's so situational.
What kind of problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Narrow it down a bit.
There's a person for every problem that you have, or there are many people, probably one person. So it's totally situational.
Yeah, you gotta have a Rolodex in your head. And I go through my head, go, who's good for that problem? So board chair, coach, angel investor, co-founder, husband, best friend. It really is just depends on but you go through enough calamity in your life, and I'm old enough now that my Rolodex is fairly full. I go like, this was that problem, okay.
The other thing I was just thinking is you guys influence a lot of people. You may not even know it when you're getting in conversations. You may say something that changes somebody's life. You may give an advice that changes somebody's life. Are you conscious of that, or what do you do to make sure you influence people in the right way?
I do it with, like I said before, it's with a clean heart. It's with only the best intentions. I gave Reza shit for his website, and we were doing this over email, and a part of me, before I hit send, I typed it out and I said, after we met at what, I don't even remember what event number it is, you'll remember probably. But I typed it all out and I was like, oh, should I be saying this? I don't even know the guy. But I said, no, I met him, he's a good guy. Even in the moment I realized he's a good guy, and yeah, of course, I want to help him. And so I hit send, and now his website looks hell of a lot better than it did then.
Yes, it really helped. You did influence me that night, and I got on it.
Farhan's right. If you take the approach that you're doing with a clean heart or a good heart, you're trying to help that person, then your advice, free advice is worth what you pay for it. Never forget that. But if you're giving somebody advice and you're doing it from a good place and you're really trying to understand what their problem is and help them, then I think you're doing a good thing every time.
Yeah, the only person that I notice my influence on are my two kids. Like, I say something yesterday and then all of a sudden they're repeating it and I go, oh crap. The 4-year-old was saying, what the heck? And I was like, oh, no, don't say that. Yeah. But normally I don't notice it, yeah.
So that changes totally. Now I try to give my daughter advice. You know nothing, Mom. Especially if it's about sports. I know nothing about sports. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't think I really realized influence until our company started to get a bit bigger. And again, all this networking and going on panels, I always say yes. If somebody asks me to do something like that, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to get up there, and I love to talk. Good Irish girl. But I think I'm noticing it more with the women in my company, and that they're starting to have that diversity impact, which we want. So yeah, sometimes you can say the wrong thing and don't realize that. As the CEO, your words carry a little bit stronger than you perhaps wanted them to or intended them to. So I always speak from the heart, and I'm very transparent. So I hope that I just don't screw it up along the way, to be truthful.
Being a serial entrepreneur, what would you have done differently if you wanted to start your first company again? And also think about social media and how all that has changed, how tech has changed. How would you start a company again?
Okay, I'm gonna go first because this is my first company. I have two things. One, have paperwork, sign everything. Two is pay yourself early on, and yeah. You don't realize until it's gotten so late in the game that you should have taken care of yourself. Because if you forget about yourself, then you can't take care of others.
I would say it's always been about hiring. Hiring the wrong people has caused me all kinds of more headache than anything else. And my first partner and I had a rule that everybody we hired had to pass the beer test. Meaning, if we didn't want to go for a beer with them, we couldn't hire them. And that worked well at the beginning, and then we got so busy that we couldn't do that any longer, and we just had to hire people. And we hired a lot of people who I would go for a beer with now. And that leads to, you make the wrong decisions about hiring, those people have a tremendous impact on your future and your success or failure. So that's the most important thing. Make sure you do your due diligence, really actually ask the right questions of their references, and make sure that they're going to be a right fit, rather than just filling the spot, because that tends to be what happens.
Yeah, between my two startup, I actually sat there and wrote out all the lessons that I've learned, and it was a long list. And then with my second startup, Discover Therapy, I apply them all, and I noticed a different outcome. So there are so many lessons to share. This is probably too long for this, but some of the notable ones are, really pick the impactful thing to do. Like as a first-time founder, you're just doing what's in front of you. And then you get really busy, but it's not the most impactful thing. So pick wisely. And then hiring, huge. People, again, is everything. Like in the second startup, we stayed with 7 people. And the first startup, I had over 28 people. But the second one made like 3 times as much as the first one. So having top performer, like A player, it 4x the efficiency, and we had a vigorous framework too. Like by then we had 2 kids, and one's a baby and the other's 2 years old. So I was like, we are running an MVP as tight as possible, testing it, and then automating it. And if it didn't make those framework, it's out. Like we didn't have time for any other, BS. So that type of framework also got us to edit really tightly. Like we were just always deleting idea, delete, and it just got us to really prioritize. And then we found product market fit. That was the other one, where the first one, throw money at it, do more ads, and try blog, try influencer. The second one, it was if there were no product market fit, pivot till it did, and then we were able to automate the ads. So there were just so many things that I learned to do that the second time around, I noticed it made a huge difference. The staff were happier, and the 7 people, we ran a remote team, like we didn't even have an office, but yet everybody was super happy. And we pay people well. That was the other one. With the 28 people, we weren't able to pay people really well, so you also lose great people. And then with the 7, we were able to pay over market, work from home, work when you want to work. Here's the clear goal. I'm going to be feeding the baby in the next 7 hours. You got it, right? And I went away. It just a whole bunch of things worked out well. Yeah.
So I know another woman like you who started a company, took 14 years or 12 years to get the exit, and then did the second one in 3. And the message from her was the same, start with the end in mind. Know if you're going to go for acquisition, then make sure you've thought ahead of time before you open your doors. Who's going to buy your company? Right? You just started your company. Who's going to buy your company? And is that going to happen in 3 years, 4 years? But at the very least, get to 3 years. 3 years and work yourself backwards. Stephen Covey's Habits of Highly Effective People. What's the end game? And then you, no more than 36 months, and work your way back, and then you just do 1 month at a time. Metrics, we're very data-driven now, and we weren't when we started. We thought we'd rebuild the company and sell it in 13 months. That was an unrealistic goal. It wasn't even a big, hairy, audacious goal. That was just a stupid goal. It was unachievable. The list of things I would do differently are as long as the one she has. Get a good lawyer who knows tech. I did not have a tech lawyer to start the company. We didn't know that we should vest our equity as co-founders for 4 years. We did it for a year. That was a big mistake. So, there's a lot of little things, and happy to share them with individuals who want to know, but there are a lot of things. It's not just one thing. Never run out of money, but as an accountant, I knew that one, and that was the problem with the first company. So I sort of, be flexible in your tech. If you're building a tech stack, don't pigeon yourself into something. The list is massive, and I would definitely do it faster and I will not do it again, but if I were to do it again, I would do it faster.
And there was just one that I just thought of that was actually really important, and it was counterintuitive. With Weddingful, we lower our prices to scale because we're like, we need to get more thousands and hundreds of thousands of customer, and then it was like, $900 went to $99 plan. With the other one, we raised our prices. So it was a mentor actually taught me that and was like, if you truly want product market fit, keep raising your prices because people will start to drop out and you would actually have a true measure of where you are product market fit. And if they didn't drop out, you are actually gaining more and more dollar for R&D to keep up with the innovation that it takes to keep going. And he was like, and if you didn't have product market fit, fail fast. Like, don't do it like the first one where you took 7 years. So raise your prices, keep measuring product market fit, keep having funding for your R&D, and keeping your people happy. It becomes this positive loop. So I thought that was one of the biggest lessons I learned.
The one other thing I wanted to mention is back when I was in the brokerage business funding startups and all through the years of developing other companies and raising capital and meeting founders, et cetera, the one characteristic of every one of them that failed was that the founder had an attitude of, if I build it, they will come. Meaning they had a vision, they felt they knew exactly what the market wanted, and they were going to execute on that. And that's just plain wrong. And I maybe was guilty of that in the past as well. The right answer is have an idea and then go test the idea. Interview people, talk to people, go do 100 events, tell everybody about it. I'm sure you got lots of feedback. And the result of all that, go talk to investors, tell them your story. They give you feedback. Don't believe your own bullshit. That's the bottom line.
I want to be mindful of time, but I want to ask the audience, are you guys good for one more question? Or should we? Let's do one last question, and that is, what drives you to get out of bed? What is your why? I haven't found my true why yet, but I so aspire to my grandfather who I've never met, and he had this massive family around him. Every weekend he demanded everyone to be in his house and spend time with him, and he had a big community built. He was a true entrepreneur. I only heard his stories, but I really want to get there. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing every day, and I'm hoping your answers probably help me find my why too.
My why has changed over the years. So the first why was we believed in we were actually talking about this, Tracy and I, today, that we both believed in the customers. The customers loved the product, and the company had collapsed, and we were going to shut it off. And I had sort of seen this as the future of accounting, and so I professionally had been out there networking and telling people about it. So I'm stubborn as, I won't say the bad word, but stubborn as S, and so I wasn't going to say I was wrong. I have to be right about this. So I was tenacious from that perspective and stubborn. So that was the first why. And then the second why was, wait a minute, we're actually doing something that's affecting, and I know it may sound silly to some people, but we've had stories of accountants whose lives we've really improved, that they're so happy that we do these things for them. We had a customer in Puerto Rico after the hurricane tell us about a story of how stressful their life was trying to get their business back and running when they had to take their server to the local bank to plug it in to get access to their accounting system to even do anything. And we took away a huge stress out of their life by taking it into the cloud for them. And so we started to hear these stories about how we were impacting our customers. That was my next why. And then as a tech startup, I want to exit. I want to have some money at the end of this for all this sweat and blood and tears. And I want to have a fund, and I want to invest in it. Now I want to get back out there and invest in other people like me who couldn't raise money from Boris, unlike you. I'm just kidding. It's good that you got money from him.
Cut the video.
No, Boris did help me actually quite a bit, but yeah. So that's now sort of evolving into that why. But I want to see the product continue on regardless of where I land at the end of the day, and I would like to eventually be an investor. So that's my why now.
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, what excites me are the new connections, the new learning. So every morning I found myself grabbing my phone because when I open my email, I see these new connection. Oh, there's this new meeting. Oh, this person actually replied back to me. Like that type of stuff excite me. And then the learning, being a bit of a marketer or product market, whatever you want to call. I want to see the result. Our ads launched yesterday. There was this new idea. Like, did it actually take off? What is the cost today? So, and just seeing solution work out excites me.
What gets me up in the morning every day, and it makes me excited, is I'm building a business that I created, was an idea that I'm executing on, turning into something. And I have all these people who believe in what I'm doing and want to get involved and help me with that business. That's pretty motivating. Trying to make it into something important. That's in the end.
I'm so frustrated by the status quo and where we are in life, and I feel like we can be so much better as a community, as a society. Everything I've done in my life has always been with the same intention, which is to build a bit stronger community, a better community, a better connected community. The thing I'm most scared about is that we are growing further apart, geographically, mentally. Everyone is getting further and further apart. And so everything that I've been doing, not just with the company, but through my life, has always been with that in mind. And so when I get to share stories about businesses that don't ever get a spotlight, or people who are doing some really cool things out there, and getting those messages back that, hey, you were able to help us keep our restaurant alive, or you were able to help keep my shop alive, or we're going through some disaster and we need help, and you were able to help us get that. That's what keeps me going. It's knowing that our bar it can continually get higher and higher, and that we should be striving to get there faster and faster. Otherwise, what are we wasting our time for?
Well, thank you. I'd like to give you all a prize.
I was hoping to get one of these.
That's for George.
Thank you.
I'm excited to do my own unboxing video.
Yeah, another one.
Oh, I have one of these already.
Mauricio has showed me his earlier, and I was like, hey, I don't know, I have one of those. Got one now.
Thank you for joining me in this panel. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelists.